Welcome to Ordinary People's Extraordinary Stories and another awesome story coming up. So, without too much further ado, let's bring in Cathlene. Cathlene, welcome.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me.
No, I'm looking forward to your story. We've already had a little bit of a pre chat, so I've got an idea what's coming. So,
Yes.
Cathlene,
Mhm.
if you can tell me where you were born, not necessarily when you were born because you're a lady, if you can describe to me what it was like, where you grew up, the schools you went to, and the education that you received. So you have the floor.
Okay. I don't even mind telling you how old or how much better I am because we're getting better every year, right? That's our choice. You either do or you don't. So I was born in Hollywood, Florida, which is, if you all know about the United States and Florida, it is pretty close to Miami, Florida on the East Coast. Born to two amazing parents. My mom was 15 when she had me. My dad was 17, and they are still together today. They are just some of the most amazing people. And I remember, my dad working all the time. We lived in a small apartment, and some of which I feel like I have some recollection of, but some of it's probably from pictures. Growing up with two young parents, one car. And then I have a sister who is 15 months younger than me. And we used to catch the bus to go places. My mom would bring us to the park. We would do all of the things. And I have really good memories of that time. South Florida is a very warm place. So, of course, and we'll get to that at some point, it was a really long time before I ever saw snow or realized that people live in cold weather. I thought everybody lived like I did as I was growing up. Sunshine State. That's why it's called the Sunshine State, and it's pretty warm most of the time. Uh, you know, I went to a school, my first elementary school. Oh, well, let me tell you, I went to preschool. So I remember now, I do remember this. My mom dropped me off at preschool that day, and I was very attached to my mom, very attached to my mom. And I remember just crying all day long, like always crying because I just wanted my mom. And so my mom actually got a job at the preschool just so that we wouldn't go through that every day. And so that was great for me. Then we moved. So we moved. We still lived in Hollywood in South Florida, but we moved to a house that was across the street from my grandparents, across the street from my mom's parents. Now, my mom grew up in a very large family. So altogether, my grandmother, who stood all of about, I don't know, 4 foot 10, had 11 children altogether. Woo! There was a huge, huge age range through all of the children as well. And so my mom was stuck pretty much in the middle. She was one of the middle kids. She also was the kind of kid and adult who very much was a caretaker, very much of a caretaker of people. And so as I grew older, I realized why we lived across the street from my grandparents. Now, my grandfather, who, as we'll talk about later on, why I started the nonprofit I did, my grandfather was unfortunately abusive, and he abused not only my grandmother but all of the children. Again, why as I grew up realized why we lived across the street from my grandparents, because my mom wanted to make sure that everybody else was being taken care of because she had siblings that were mine and my sister's age. As far as school went, I still remember, the school I went to at first. It was kindergarten and first grade, which over here you're probably about 5, 6 when you start kindergarten years old. And the school I went to, my aunt and uncle went there as well. Like I said, my mom had younger siblings, so my aunt and uncle were in the same school as I was. My sister at that point she was still in preschool. She was too young to go to school. But I remember the warm days being on the slide outside. They have, like, back in the day, and I don't know what they've got over in England, but we used to have slides that were metal. So the slides were totally metal, and woo, in this heat in Florida, those things would be hot, so hot, but you're going to do it anyway, right? We're going to go down, even though we all have shorts on and everything. We're figuring this out. So I do remember that and being able to be outside on the playgrounds and seeing my aunt and uncle as we were going in and out of classes for the morning and at lunchtime. I feel like the education that I had in middle school, I mean, of course, that was really young, and I have really good memories of that. We did then moved to another place in Florida. I was born and raised, like I said, in Florida, in the US. We moved to Tallahassee, Florida, which is on the panhandle, as we call it. So if you look at the state of Florida, it looks kind of like a pan, I guess, right? There's the handle, which is South Florida, Mid Florida, Northeast, and then you have the part that jets out that connects with Alabama, and you call it the panhandle. It's kind of at the top. I We moved there, and I remember, oh my gosh, my elementary school. The name of it was Sealy Elementary School, and it was absolutely amazing. And the way we were taught is what they called pods. So pods are four. So it's four classrooms that have a middle section and everything's open. So even though there are four classes going on of the same grade, we all could see. Like I could see those classes that were diagonal from me, across from me. I could see those, but we were all separate but together. You know, there's something that stands out to me from elementary school, and that is something that's totally different from these days. Now, I was a pretty much a shy kid. I didn't really talk that much. I had friends, a lot of acquaintances, maybe one or two good friends, and this kind of happened all the way through school. But I remember the kids that were not good, and they used to get paddled, which is something you would not hear about today. Okay, like that just does not happen. But we knew in each pod there was a back room, and in that room is where if you were bad, you only got a certain amount of warnings, you got paddled. Well, luckily that never happened to me, but it happened because teachers, principals, I mean, they were allowed to discipline the kids. Um, I think I'm not a fan of hitting, but I do think that teachers should be able to tell a kid when they're not doing something right. I think that they should be sent out of the room if they're disrupting the class. Whole nother story. But anyway, as my adult brain starts to think about things that went on when I was younger, I do remember that about elementary school. So I felt like I had a really good elementary. So elementary school is grades kindergarten through fifth grade. Fifth grade, you're probably about 10 or 11, and you're getting ready to leave elementary school then, and you're going to go to middle school. Middle school is where your preteen years happen. And I don't know, I felt like I didn't really have a great middle school experience. Maybe some people did. Personally, I don't know many people that have had a great middle school experience with preteen and teens. Uh, so that's where I am right now, up to middle school. And in middle school, I felt like there was a lot of clicks, right? Maybe that's the way to put it. A lot of clicks, a lot of needing to fit in or wanting to fit in or feeling like you didn't fit in. And like I said, my parents were amazing, amazing people. We would go on 2 vacations a year. Typically, we would drive. My dad would make sure he put away money so that we could at least go do things. And I believe this was probably the first time I saw snow. Those of you who know much about the US, you know that right above Florida is Georgia. Georgia will sometimes get snow, not very often. Melts pretty much when it hits the ground, but it's still snow. And so we got in the car and we drove over the Florida Georgia line, name of a band as well. Drove over the Florida Georgia line to see snow. And I remember when it started coming down, we were on I-95. So those of you that know the East Coast know that I-95 goes all the way up and down the East Coast of the United States. And we stopped, pulled over on the side of the highway because you could do that back in the day. It was not a big deal. And I didn't tell you how old I was. Let me just tell you what years we're talking about here. So I was born in 1972. I am going to be 52 years old in a very short couple of weeks here. I was born 2 weeks after Christmas. So this is kind of the era we're talking about. So now we're in the early 80s, and we could stop on the side of the road. Nobody's going to say anything. No, not a big deal on the side of the highway, which you really would not do today unless you're really having an issue on the side of 95 of all places. So we would stop. We'd stop there. My sister and I are so excited to see the snow. So it's the first time I saw snow. And I knew then that, okay, this snow stuff is pretty darn cold. I don't think I could live there all the time, but I think it's pretty cool that people actually get to see this. And we got to do that. So we would go on vacations every year. And as far as education, when it came to middle school, personally, I felt like so much of my middle school years were caught up with wanting to fit in, being shy, feeling like I didn't have the same body that a lot of the other girls had. And I say that because, and we just talk about everything here, right? So I started puberty very early. I was developed by 5th grade. I started having a period at 8 years old. So I was very far ahead of the curve when it comes developmentally to physical development than the girls that were in my classes. So I did feel pretty isolated, and I did that to myself, I think. It wasn't like I was being made fun of, so I'll get on that in a minute. But I really put myself in a box of, oh God, I can't believe this is me. So when that happened, right, I was in 3rd grade when I started my period. So I guess I shouldn't have glanced over that, but I think it was something I just tried to forget because that was really tough for me in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. Because that was something that I was dealing with and I didn't know anybody else that was dealing with at that time. So of course, now let's just, talk about the boys, right, that used to make fun of me. And there were some girls that made fun of me as well. I mean, as I got older, I realized maybe they just wanted to develop that fast too. I don't know. But the boys would make fun of me, so I'd be very self-conscious going to school. I'd be self-conscious with my body for that very reason, because you can't hide some of this stuff, right? Like you can't hide when your chest is different than everybody else's. So my middle school years, as far as education goes, I know I learned things. I mean, I made decent grades. I made A's, B's, and a couple C's. And but I definitely was not applying my entire self to that because I was so busy thinking about how I was going to fit in or how bad I felt about myself, which led to some things mentally for me, meaning I did feel like I was down a lot, and I would talk to my mom about it, who was amazing. And of course, as parents, as us parents do, I have 4 children of myself and 3 grandchildren. And, we want to help our kids in any way, but sometimes the only way through it is through it, right? And to see what can we do better, or what can we change, or who can we not hang out with? What do we think of ourselves? So I don't know that I felt like I learned a ton. I mean, obviously I did because I made decent grades. I remember chemistry. I remember some history. I remember, English, literature, math. So those were my middle school years, which I don't know that I guess we'd go back and do anything, but there's some things I definitely changed if I did. Oh my gosh, one thing I do remember. So what was popular in middle school? Tell me, I mean, because I can talk all day, so you can let me know. All right.
Well, I mean, it's funny the things you're coming out with about going through that sort of middle school, that sort of that early period. And so many people go through exactly the same thing. So
Yep.
many people
Yep.
find it really difficult, that puberty stage that you go through from about sort of 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, that sort of period. So many kids have so many dramas trying to fit in, not developing too much. And then, yeah, I think your story is so typical,
Mhm.
even to this day. I mean, kids
Yep.
kids nowadays go through exactly the same, and 50 years ago, it was the same for me. We all sort of suffer those sort of anxieties and those problems where where you're going through that stage of life where you're trying to figure out who you are. So
And as we're older, we look back and we realize you're not going to know who you are. And
no,
that's okay. The whole goal is to just figure those little things out here, a little bit at a time. And I think these days what's happening is they're trying to tell kids how they should feel.
yeah,
And if one thing doesn't work, let's do too far, too far. We're going too far. Um,
way too far what they're doing
way
nowadays
too
to
far
kids.
because like you just said, this stuff is normal. This is
Yeah,
normal stuff that we have to get through. And when they're coming in and saying, well, you feel this way because you need to do you should be this, you should do this. I think it's not giving our kids a chance to go through the things that you went through and that I went through, which
yeah,
actually led me to where I am today, which led me to, write a book, start a nonprofit, get involved in all these things. And
mm,
my life would have taken a totally different course if somebody would have said, "Oh, okay, this is what you should be
yeah.
if you're not
Well, we'll
comfortable
come on
with
to
you."
that
Yeah.
as we get a bit
But
further in there.
you're
So
right. Go ahead.
yeah, so your middle school days were pretty grim,
They
like,
really
by
were.
so many people's.
Yeah, yeah, they really were. The one funny thing that I remember from middle school that I think about now, my mom was probably like, "What are you thinking?" Like it was popular to change shoes with one of your friends. So, and I don't mean change both shoes, just change one
Just the
shoe,
one.
just the one.
That must have
So
been something for the 80s.
it was. So we had to have it was good if you had a friend that was around your same shoe size because it's really hard to change shoes if you don't have a friend around the same shoe size.
Yeah.
But if you looked at your shoes and you had on a shoe of, say, Bethany's, then you must be really good friends with Bethany and that was kind of like a symbol of, oh, Kathy, which was what I was always called. My real name is Cathlene. My parents always called me Kathy, and it stuck through school. Kathy must be really good friends with Bethany because they changed shoes. It's just so funny to look back now. And as a mom, I'm thinking, I mean, I would have been probably thinking the same thing my mom's thinking. Like, can you just wear your own shoes? Like, I don't buy you shoes to give one to somebody else. I mean, it's such a funny thing, but I don't see people doing that these days. So I think it's a great thing to remind people of. Yeah, early 80s
Yeah.
with girls, maybe not so much the boys, but the girls, let's change our shoes.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
these things sort of go in phases, don't they? In
they do.
cycles. I mean, I'm sure that'll come round again sometime.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. Same thing with parachute pants.
Mm,
Did you guys have parachute pants?
not when I was a kid. No.
Okay, so parachute pants are
I,
kind of like what they sound like. They're made out of parachute material and they have a lot of pockets like cargo pants would.
all right.
And basically they were very popular. They were hard to wear, especially somebody that was my size, meaning I'm not that tall. I'm the same size as I was in 5th grade. No joke. Like I was bigger for my age. I'm not anymore. I'm not anymore because I'm 5'3". And I stopped growing early, but and I always had muscular legs. So it's really hard to wear parachute pants when you have muscular legs because they don't have any give in them and they're really tight. But it's what the break dancers would wear, and that's why it was popular. So a
Ah.
lot of the kids in the early 80s, right? Like the break dancing was the thing. They'd put that piece of cardboard out, at least over here in the US, and they'd be flying all over the place. And for whatever reason, parachute pants became like the thing you wear when you break dance, which I never understood because I could barely move in parachute pants. But
Mm.
it's just another one of those popular things that came around. But mentally, getting through middle school to me was a huge deal. I mean, I was so excited when that was done. Although high school wasn't all it was cracked up to be either. But yeah,
Mm. So let's have a look at your high school then. So you finally sort of graduated out of middle school to your
yeah,
high school. And what
I
was the
did.
high school like? Was it in the same building? I mean, was it
No,
in
no,
the same
no,
place?
no. Totally separate. Totally separate. I did live in the same town when I started middle school. By this time, we had moved to a place called Ocala, Florida. which is in the middle of Florida. So most of the people probably know where Orlando is and Disney World.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right near there. So we had moved there because my dad worked for a grocery store called Publix, which back in those days was only in the state of Florida. They've spread throughout the US now, but so we transferred throughout Florida. And so I started high school there. I was still, I think, basically traumatized from middle school, to be honest. And I tried to kind of go in, decided I was going to start playing a musical instrument. So I played the clarinet and I joined the marching band because I thought, you know what? I'm going to do this. It'll give me something to do. I kind of wanted to learn how to play an instrument. And that's kind of how that started. I kind of started picking up the clarinet in middle school, but didn't really do a ton with it. So that was kind of a focus for my first 2 years of high school. As far as my education goes, I really felt like I was kind of in the same boat. I wasn't really super academic. I mean, I really wasn't. I learned stuff, I made good grades. Now my sister, who's 15 months younger than me, was very academic, so her school life, even though she went to the same schools I did, were different because the people she hung out with were different, right? She was hanging out with the very I would academically focused kids. I was hanging out with just a couple friends. I honestly was really concerned about what I was going to do this weekend. I thought that'd be cool.
Mm.
I worked. I got a job. My first job when I was 15. I wanted to work and make money. So I kind of went that route when it came to high school, and it did keep me busy, which I was really really excited about. Now, one thing with the marching band, which I think is fascinating and so glad that I went through it, because those routines that you learn at those football games, that when you see people, so football over here, it's
Yeah.
football, not soccer, and we're out on the field and we're putting on a show. We're playing the instrument and we're making letters and words on the field and we're dancing. The amount of practices that it took to make that happen when you've got, 150 people is a lot. And I never knew it went into that until I was part of the marching band. I look at marching bands now, obviously, with a whole new look. People get up and
Yeah.
leave when the marching band comes on the field. I am like there to watch because I know how much work it went in to make that happen. But I felt like I got a great education. I did because there's a lot of things that
Mm.
I know. I felt like I was a little more social than I was academic. Um, which I always feel like I'm like, well, I've got those social skills down. Like I look both ways when I cross the street. I can talk to people. I can do like all of that kind of stuff just came naturally to me. Whereas, in sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people are more academic. I mean, not that people can't be both, but sometimes it's
Mm.
more, okay, well, this is what I am. I'm not that much of a people person. I really don't want to talk to anybody. I was made fun of a lot. I was made fun of a lot in middle school and in high school at the beginning. And that was really because of my physical development. And again, now that I look back, I know that a lot of it was, I mean, I could just say it's jealousy on a lot of people's parts, right? They probably
Tends to
weren't
be.
developing fast enough.
I think. I think.
Um,
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Lots and lots of people see other people that they want to be like, and are jealous of
Absolutely.
them, and the only way that they feel that they can have an effect is to take the Michael out of them.
Yeah.
Is to ridicule them a bit because they're not like that. They want to be, and I think
Right.
that's their issue and not yours. And
Absolutely.
I think anybody that sees that nowadays, because it goes on that it's gone on for millennia. Somebody that's doing that to you, it's their problem. It's not yours. And I
Absolutely.
think it's important to realise that it's their problem and not yours. And that's a good way of coping with it. I
Yeah.
think.
And if we could just teach kids that, right? But we tell them that. I mean, my mom told me that. My dad told me that. My dad used to say to me, because especially when I stopped growing up, right? So I wasn't as tall then as everybody else. And he would always say, good things come in small packages. And I still remember that to this day because that's always what he would tell me, even though I was more developed in other ways. But, when we try to tell kids that, Of course, they're like,
See,
"Oh, well, you're my parent. You're only going to say that because you're my parent,"
yeah,
type
I
of a
mean
thing.
that's the trouble with kids.
Yep.
They all think they know everything.
Yeah. We all have been there, right? I mean, we've all been there at one
Absolutely.
point. I certainly
Yeah,
did. I certainly thought I knew what I was talking about, which it was even in my high school years.
yeah. I mean, you can advise until the cows come home, but if
Right.
they don't take the advice because they think they know better,
And I always say, even now today, that, even though I know they're not going to follow it 100% and they're probably going to not listen to it, I've said it. I know it's right. And it's back here somewhere in their heads. And at some point, it's going to click and they'll be like,
yep,
oh, I've heard that before. Or,
yeah,
oh, yeah, that's what they're talking about.
yeah, they was
So
right all along.
absolutely. And so I think it's really important for us to keep talking about things like that and saying it. And I think,
Absolutely.
unfortunately,
Yep.
and that's another thing we can talk about. But unfortunately, these days those things aren't being talked about because nobody wants to hurt anybody's feelings. But you want to know what?
Yeah.
We're a parent for a reason. We are
Yep.
a leader in whatever it is in your kids' lives for a reason. Whether you're a teacher or whatever it is, you got to tell them. You don't know what you don't know, and if we don't teach them, how are they going to learn?
Yep. And I think that's another thing that's happened that in this time now is that people tend to take offence a lot more nowadays, and people don't want to hurt people's feelings. Whereas I think years ago, particularly when I grew up, there was
Oh, me
nothing
too.
like there was nothing like like it. I mean, you got a one-way conversation without coffee, and and you couldn't take offence at it because you did you did get it worse.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, though, is that we learn from those things, right? And some of those things, maybe
Absolutely.
not all of them, but some of those things I'm passing along to my kids, and I passed along, and I find myself passing along to my grandkids now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, those things that I thought my parents were crazy about because they were telling me this stuff. You know what? They were right. And I remember the day I even called my mom and I was like, I am so sorry. Like, I am so sorry. Once you have kids of your own, you go through certain times with them,
Yep.
you're like, whoa.
And the great thing with having grandkids is you can spoil them rotten and hand them back. But
It is
I
so
always
true.
I try and tell people that there are two ways to learn. There's an easy way to learn and there's a hard way to learn. And most of the time people pick the hard way.
They do. They do. And if they would have just listened to us the first time, it would have been a whole
Yeah,
lot easier.
absolutely.
I'm with you on that. I totally
Yeah.
agree. But
Easy
things
way
are
and hard
definitely,
way.
yeah, things are definitely different these days. And I will say, so the rest of my high school years, kind of stems the things I'm going to say stems from being made fun of, not feeling that great about myself because physically I felt like I just seemed different, and of course I couldn't change my body because that's
Mm.
my body.
Yep.
And so I ended up with 11th grade. 11th grade. So how old was I? 11th grade, 15, 16 years old with an eating disorder. Which, because back then, of course, the only thing you're seeing are pictures on TV, you're seeing magazines. It wasn't like it is now, which is all over the place, and why there's so many issues these days because of social media, because you can just pick up your phone and you're going to see it, whereas we had to kind of search for it, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't have targeted, meaning you know the background and algorithms are targeting our kids, whereas back in the day it just happened to be what channel we had on the TV as to what we, so it was totally random. But which is why things are so much worse than they were back then. I mean, because I remember the TVs, like we had a black and white TV. I don't even remember when we got a color TV. But I was like I was the remote control, like my sister and I were the remote control because we had 12 channels. And when my dad wanted the channel to be changed, he'd ask us to get up and change the channel. So, we didn't have a lot to choose from, but still, with all of that, and then stemming from not feeling good about myself from, which started middle school, excuse me, I ended up with an eating disorder. And I will say, when I was younger, my mom put me in this modeling class. I kind of skipped over that, but I'll just touch on this because it does kind of impact things. My mom put me in a one-on-one modeling class, and I was in it was right before I started middle school, and then went into middle school. But it was really interesting, and this is kind of where I started to come out of my shell, because it wasn't just a you get up on stage and do stuff. It was she really wanted me to start feeling better about myself, because she knew I was really self-conscious about my body. And the instructor, who was absolutely a beautiful, amazing woman, what we had to do was she taught us to talk to people. So the fashion shows that we had were like for women's luncheons and all of these different things. We had to go around table to table, and we had to describe the outfit that we had on, where we would wear the outfit, and answer questions about the outfit. And I have to say, that did bring my confidence level up as far as speaking to other people and opening up my mouth. Now we kind of laugh about that today, because my mom's like, "You don't stop talking now." Like, I don't know if that was a good idea or not, because like that really brought me out of my shell. When it but when it comes to my feeling physically like I wasn't like everybody else, that's where the eating disorder came in. And I remember a friend of mine saying to me, I was in high school, and I was in we live in Florida, and at this point we had moved, so now I'm living in on the coast at the ocean in Jacksonville Beach. And anyway, we're putting on our bathing suits, and she was like, you I don't know what you're doing, because she didn't realize it at the time, although she figured it out. Because she said, you're too thin. Like, your body is not matching your development. Meaning, because my chest was still the same size, my legs were still muscular, but like everything else was just getting way too thin. You could see ribs, you could see, and that's just not normal. That's not normal. So that's when my mom started catching on as well. And she put me through counseling and things like that, and did all the things you should do as a parent. But I will say, it really just took me to feel good about myself before that really came to a stopping point. And that's kind of when I got on the starting of, I started to realize what I thought about was growing. What you think and feel grows. And I came to that realization by myself, even though I think it's talked about a lot these days, because I kept thinking, why, how can I get out of this cycle? Because I know it's not healthy. That also, though, started my venture into the love of fitness, because I knew, okay, I've got to fix this. And if only way for me to fix this is to start being healthy, because I knew this was not doing well, and of course, when you go to the doctor and they tell you your teeth are going to rot out, and you're doing, I mean, all these things because of what you're doing. Um, yeah, so that, I mean, my high school, I felt like the education, again, we learned all the basics. I learned all my stuff. I made all A's, B's, and C's. Although I will say, in my senior year, I got on the dance. Well, two things: junior and senior year, I got on the dance squad, because I wanted, instead of playing in the band, I wanted to be a dancer. So I made it onto the dance squad, and that was really cool, because I got to dance now on the football fields instead of playing the instrument. But I mean, that probably led to some of my eating disorder as well. But anyway,
Were
got
you
through
one of the
that.
ones that they were throwing up in the air all the time because you was so
No,
small?
no, I was the one that would dance, right? Yeah, those were the cheerleaders. So I was the one that had on like the little short skirts that would have the really glittery tops on, and we'd be doing the kick line in the middle of the field. And then doing some really cool dances. Actually, I tried out for cheerleading. I did try out for cheerleading, and I did not make it. And the reason why I didn't make it was because I can't do a flip. And I will tell you, to this day, if I spin in one circle, I'm dizzy. So I knew cheerleading was not going to work for me after that. I mean, they're spinning all over the place. And I was like, I get nauseous. I just can't do it. So those little spinny rides,
Yeah.
never. I can't do it. I just can't do it. So yeah, I was on the dance squad. And education wise, I actually also, what I did was I got on the work program. So I don't even know if they do that again these days, but they have a thing called the work program. So half of my day was spent, the grade I got was from going to work. So I would go to work. My boss at work would be the one to give me the grade, depending on, I was very responsible. I really true feel like I was a born leader, meaning I always wanted to be the one leading everything. So I always worked hard, Because back then, right, you could work really hard and work your way up to something. It wasn't
Mm.
the degree you had. It wasn't,
Yeah.
there were certain things had to do with who you were as a person and what a good leader you were. And so I was able to work my way up, and I knew that. I knew the only way to make extra money was to be able to work my way up. And so I did that. And so that was a lot of my high school years. As far as the eating disorder goes, I say I got over it, meaning it was a long process. And when I had just gotten, I mean, we could talk about the high school stuff, but then right after high school, it's my life changed as well.
Mm. So, did you graduate with honours, or did you just graduate?
I just graduated.
And what about your prom? Did
So I
did
went to
did
prom. So yes,
did you
so
have a
I was on
date?
the home. I
Was it
had a
done up in a
date.
tux and everything?
Absolutely. I was on the homecoming queen court my junior year. I was not nominated homecoming queen, but I was on the court, meaning one of the five. So that was awesome. Um, I senior prom, absolutely, and I had a date, and that was really fun because I love to dance, love to dance, and my and those were things that I look now back and I was like, it was so classy back then, meaning like our dresses
Mm.
were long and full and just amazing. And I'm not trying to diss anybody here these days, but honestly, the dresses are so short and you can't, I mean, like that wouldn't have even been cool for us to wear in on
Mm.
prom because prom was about formal. This is going to be
Yeah.
formal, you
Yeah.
know? And
But
I
they even wear
remember.
tuxedos nowadays or dinner suits.
Yeah. Yeah, and the guys wore
Yeah.
tuxedos back then still,
Yeah.
and they were definitely,
And nowadays,
nowadays, I mean, some of the guys are wearing tuxedos, but not all the time. It's not
mm,
as formal as it used to be.
yeah, I think, I think that's really detrimental to society when they do that.
Yeah,
Um, I've noticed on recent cruises we've been on, they kind of relax the dress code
right.
nowadays, which I think is wrong. It's taking something away from what it should be. But there you go.
I
That's
agree.
me.
Well, I agree 100%, and I agree that way with, places of employment as well. I think if a job has branding and they have a brand, you don't go away from that brand, meaning they should be able to tell you, "You can't do
Mm,
this, and this," and if you don't like it, you go work somewhere else because that's not our brand. And
yeah.
what they're doing these days is they're so they don't hurt anybody's feelings, they're letting and or they don't get cited with a fine. They're letting people just get away with things, and I totally don't agree with that at all. So I think it kind of goes
Mm,
back to the prom thing too. I think there's certain things that are just it's part of history. Let's just do it. Let's make sure that we're really
yeah.
giving everybody like what it's like to really live and do these things that are so special. If not, they're going to be like everything else. So why would you go to
Yeah.
prom if it's going to be
That's
like
it.
everything else?
Yeah. Precisely. Why
Yeah.
why
So
why pay all that money to go on something like a cruise and not treat it as a special thing where you can dress up to dinner?
absolutely.
So
Because
yeah.
they don't
So
wanna
I think
single anybody
yeah.
out.
I think society nowadays they're losing some of the joys that we had.
And in some of the in society these days too, a lot of the I say kids because, my oldest is gonna be 32 next month, so I think of anybody younger than that a kid. But, they don't also they're missing out, especially the teens these days in the early 20s. They don't
Mm,
even know what they're missing because the stuff that they're learning is just being pushed on them that, "Oh, this must be the way it is." And that's why
yeah.
I think it's so amazing with what you're doing about talking about this and talking about the way that things were, because that's the only way we're gonna get it out there and that people are gonna be able to say, "Oh, gosh, well, that would have been really cool."
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
So let's move things on a bit then. So you graduated high school. You had a fabulous prom. What did you
fabulous.
do after?
After my prom?
Well, after you graduated high school, did you
Oh,
go? Did you go on
so
to college or did
So
you do
no, I
something
didn't, and I'll tell
different?
you why. So after I graduated from high school, I got a job at what you all, I mean, I don't know if you guys have heard of, it's called the Mayo Clinic. It is an academic medical facility. There's only three of them in the US. They're very, very well known for great medical care. So I got a job there. And again, I had that mentality of I'm going to work my way up because I want to be in charge. So I did. But what happened in the meantime was I got pregnant.
How did that happen?
So yeah, found out I was
Must have
pregnant
been
at
a
19.
fantastic prom.
It was a fantastic prom, and at 19, I found out I was pregnant, and I was like, "Okay, okay." Now, it kinda takes a little bit of a spin because I don't know if so have you ever heard of hyperemesis? So
No.
hyperemesis is something that very few women get, about 10% of women, maybe even less, I'm not even sure, that get when they're pregnant, and it is when you basically are sick the entire pregnancy.
Yeah.
Entire pregnancy. Um,
Um, Kate, Kate, the Princess of Wales, I think she suffers that.
Absolutely, I have heard that, yeah. So back in the day, of course, this was in 91. Yeah, 91. They didn't have medications to give you for hyperemesis. Basically, you had to get through it. So what ended up happening, and thank goodness I did have this job that had great health insurance because over here we have to have our own health
Yeah.
insurance. Um, is I was in the hospital about 7 months of my pregnancy. Anytime I got out, I was on IV when I got out because I had to be fed basically. But being 19, it was kind of messed with me a little bit mentally as well because I was excited about having a baby. I was not married at the time. Um, but with coming off of an eating disorder in high school, they kept coming in my room and they were sending psychiatrists in there and all these people and they kept saying, why are you making yourself get sick? And I was like, I'm not. Like I'm like I'm here with you guys 24/7. You can tell. Like I'm not. Like I just so anyway, that was a really tough time for me. And anytime I was
Mm.
released from the hospital, I had to go home on IV. And, so I moved back in with my parents so that somebody could be there to take care of me. And basically, I slept on the bathroom floor because just because you're on IV doesn't mean you don't stop getting sick. And it's literally, and there's nothing to really get sick with because you don't have anything in your body. It's just bile, literally. Like
Mm.
it's honestly, it's horrible. It's horrible. But so I did get married and to the father, and I was in the hospital planning the wedding because this is back with phone books, right? No cell phones. There's
Yeah.
no cell phone. So I'm planning a wedding from the phone book in the hospital phone in between feeling sick. And we did a little hall. My parents put everything together, which was great. So I got out of the hospital. I got married. I ate some bread and water at the wedding and then was back in the hospital the next day. So that was that was just a whole nother world. And of course, luckily, I had an amazing supervisor who helped me keep my job by saying, you know what, it's been 6 weeks. You got to show up here. You got to work at least 4 hours. So I'd go to work, literally feeling like I just had to put my head down, and then I just have to have somebody pick me up and go home. So luckily, I made it through that pregnancy, and I had a healthy little boy, and that's when I was getting into the okay, I've got to keep this healthy streak going because like I said, I was done with the eating disorder
Mm.
and I started really getting more into fitness and into feeling good about myself and into eating right. So that's when I was in a very my marriage wasn't that great, we're both young. We're just trying to, both
Young
growing
and
up
daft
and
at the
then
time. Young and daft. Happens to a
yeah,
lot of people.
literally, yeah. I mean, you can't even say anything except for just two young people, man. I mean, it
Yeah.
just was what it was. We're trying to get going here. So I went and got certified to teach about every kind of aerobics and personal training that you could ever imagine because I wanted to join the gym and I really didn't have the money to join the gym because I was, all my money was going to pay for my house, my car, my, daycare and all of that, but I had to work because I needed health insurance. And in the meantime, I was really working my way up that ladder. So I did. I told you I want to be in charge. And so I did work my way up, and I'll tell you more about that in a second. But um, to kind of make a long story short, I ended up having one more child and then got divorced. So I was then a single mom of two kids. And luckily, I did all that fitness training and certifications because after work at the Mayo Clinic, I would go pick up my kids from daycare and we would go to the gym and I would teach aerobics and personal train. And this was the way that I was going to be able to pay for my gym membership and also make money at the same time. So I did that, and I also cleaned houses on the weekends, and my mom would help me watch the kids so that I just needed to make ends meet at this point. And I did work my way up. So I actually became Mayo Clinic's youngest supervisor ever. By this time I was 24, and I was like, this is what I'm going to do. Like, this is what I'm going to do. And stuck with that until I met this amazing man. And, I was, again, single mom of two. And the first thing I would tell people when they asked me out was, just so you know, I have two kids. And I would tell them how old they were. And let me just tell you, 80% of the time they were like, oh, okay. And then you never heard from them again, which was fine. But I just thought, we got to get this out up front because if it's not going to work with the kids, this is not going to work at all. Um, so yeah, then we dated long distance. I mean, and I did. Oh, and just to throw this out there, I had hyperemesis with the second one too. So this was just my body. And I had told you I have 4 kids. I had hyperemesis with all 4 of them. So I think it's just my body during pregnancy. My body's like, this is not working for me.
Takes the fun out of it a bit, doesn't it?
Oh, I was never ever the glowing pregnant woman ever, ever. I was just, I got to make it through this. I've got to make it through this. I've got to make it through this. That was it.
So, move us on a bit.
Yep.
So, you're now in charge of the clinic.
I'm out in charge of a floor, which is a huge, huge thing for me. And I was super excited. They told me I couldn't move up anymore unless I went and got a college degree. So I tried to go back to college. But I will be honest with you, that was just too hard with working a full-time job, 2 part-time jobs, and having 2 kids. It didn't work. I couldn't do it. So long story short there, my 2 older kids and myself moved up to Rochester, Minnesota, which was at that point, my boyfriend now that we were dating long distance, was doing his residency there. And so we moved up there to see if it was going to work. And then we ended up, and it was very cold. I don't know if you've ever been to Minnesota. Minnesota is a whole nother world when it comes to cold. I mean,
there was
a weekend, and we do Fahrenheit over here, but where the temperature was -30, like -30 was the temperature. It was no joke.
That's cool.
Like, and coming from Florida, that was like a wake up call. But anyway, so I knew we weren't going to live there forever. So I ended up, I transferred up there with Mayo Clinic. So there was a Mayo Clinic up there. I transferred. And then when we got married, since we could get on the same health insurance, I was able to quit my job and became a stay-at-home mom. So that's when I started being a stay-at-home mom. I had 2 more children. So I've got 4 children altogether. And there are 14 years difference from my oldest to my youngest as far as age goes. But we all grew up. Yeah, I was growing up with the older ones for sure. We, all lived under the same roof. Our kids were with us full time, all 4 of them. And I became a stay-at-home mom. And, that was probably the hardest job I've ever had. And I used to always think that my friends that were stay-at-home moms, I was like, well, that's such a cushy job.
Yeah.
Well, when I became one, I obviously called them and I was like, I am so sorry too. Like, this is a lot. Like, this is a lot of emotional stuff, right? Because it's not like work. I mean, at work, I could go sit in my car on my lunch hour, go for a walk. I was not emotionally tied to these people. If they were having a bad day, I'm sorry, or if whatever. But when it's your kids, it's like 24/7, and it was a lot. So I was a stay-at-home mom for over 20 years, and I also homeschooled. So we homeschooled our 2 youngest children, which is a whole nother conversation as to why that happened. But I'll tell you, when people that knew me were like, "You're doing what?" You're homeschooling your kids. Okay. And I'm pleased to say that they are both in college now, which is what you guys would call university. So
Yeah.
they're both there. They're doing their thing. So we did something right. But I will say that in high school, when they became high school ages for their homeschool, we actually hired a full time tutor. So we had somebody that helped with that because it gets to the point you're like, I can't help with that anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
It's about there on me.
yeah. Yeah, I can't do that. I don't even remember this stuff. Did they teach us this stuff in school? I'm not sure. Um, so now and I will say there were some things now we've got cell phones in, right? We got cell phones. Now with my older kids, the worst thing that was happening was I had to, like tell my oldest, he was because none of my kids got cell phones till they were in high school. We were totally against it. It's not going to happen. There's no reason for you to have a cell phone because you're always with me anyway. Like there's no reason. So with the older kids, the worst thing that was happening was they were getting texts late at night. And that's when I started the whole, okay, phones plugged in downstairs by 10 p.m., no exceptions. And I will just tell you that I will look at your phone. I'm going to look at your phone. I'm going to search it and and I need all the passwords and that's just what's going to happen. So that's the kind of mom I am. That's the kind of mom I was. Um, and then we had cell phones that got more stuff on it, right? Because when cell phones in the night, my
First ones,
son, yeah,
it
my
was just used
oldest
as a
graduate.
phone to talk to people.
That's right. And my kids too. Like
Nowadays,
I said, it was texting and it was phone calls. That was it with my oldest kids. That was it. And they're 32 and 29 now. So now you go down to the 19 and the 18-year-old, right? Everything's on their phone. Everything. They have access to anything and everything. And I have a problem with that. So again, same rules. Phone's plugged in downstairs. I'm going to search your phone. I thought I had it all together. I mean, I'm like, I thought I'm on top of this. I'll be honest with you. It's a full time job. It's a full time job checking your kids' phones. It's a lot of
yeah.
work because number one, you don't even know what you're looking for, which is what I found out. So,
Yeah,
so
technology and older people takes a bit of
I
handling, doesn't
mean, so with one of my teenagers, we started noticing things changing. Started noticing people they were hanging out with changing. The way she was acting was changing. Something's not right here. So, long story short, it's a pretty long story, but we had some hospital stays. We had some things that went on, and it all started. We found out later it stemmed from social media. And I say this because I finally got a hold of the phone, meaning like they say, we're better than the FBI. A parent that's trying to find something out on their kids or for their kids
it?
will get to the bottom of it. And so I was finding out that these apps that are on the phones are not really the apps that are on the phones. Didn't know that you could do that. So, for instance, if you push the camera is really TikTok if you want it to be, or it can be Snapchat. It can be whatever you want it to be. So that's why I wasn't finding things because they were behind other apps and I wasn't looking because why would I? I didn't know this was possible. And also, if they close down an account, all you got to do is make another free Gmail account. You can make another account, not a big deal. But what really was puzzling to me is the things that these kids were seeing at any age, the things
Yeah.
that they have access to seeing is a problem. And it's still that way today. It is still that way today. I mean, I don't know if you guys know,
Can't
like,
see it
there's
changing anytime soon, but I mean, they bring in
no, but no.
legislation to change it, and they just find a different way of
Well,
doing it.
right, and it's not going to. People are gonna do what they're gonna do. I think it's just a matter at where I am right now is educating people on it. I think parents need to be educated. Unfortunately, I found out the hard way, and luckily, we're 3 years out from this, and I can look back and say, "Okay, we're okay." But I unfortunately know of some parents that it did not go well. It did not go well. And, it's really scary, the things that they're seeing and the things that they're learning. They're learning about self-harm, they're learning about harming other people, they're learning about things that they should not even know about. Nobody should have a choice about who they are who they are.
Yeah,
Um, these are things that they're learning and they're seeing, and this is what I was saying is it's the so when I was talking about, back in my day and your day when we're looking at TV and the magazines, well, these days they're being targeted. So these things are being sent to them in their feeds. So even if you think you've got a kid that's not on something that they shouldn't be watching, okay, that's cool. But you want to know what? It's going to be fed to them because they're going to see it. And then
Yeah.
what? 9 times out of 10, they're curious. So what are they going to do? They're going to click on it. And then that gets them in the algorithm. That gets in the algorithm to see more of those things. And so I've gotten very passionate about this, just because of, unfortunately, the things that we went through. And educating people, I think, is really important because we don't know what we don't know. And I'd rather tell people about it and have them learn about it now before they have to learn in the way that I did or that some other parents did.
Mm.
So, and so anyway, that's my passion about social media and why I do what I do, when it comes to, the tech startups and things like that, because it's really very important. It's important to, we've got
Yeah.
to do these things.
So can you tell us a bit about how you got into that tech startup stuff,
Yeah.
and bring us up to date with
Yeah.
where you are
So,
with it all?
the tech stuff really started, like, again, it stemmed from that. It stemmed from, um, going through what I went through, doing a lot of research and figuring out, okay, what are these kids being fed? Also watched a lot of documentaries, trying to figure out, okay, to people who've already done the research, because I'm not here to reinvent the wheel, but I need to learn about this stuff. And realizing that, for instance, okay, so there's two different tech startups, and the one that has to do with kids we're releasing in February. It's already done. It's out there. We're just now, making sure all the back end works with getting our outside people coming in, like kids and stuff. But like YouTube, for instance, you could put something on for your kids. Like maybe they want to watch, like my granddaughter, she loves to do makeup stuff, right? So she'll watch makeup tutorials that kids are teaching, which is cool. That's really cool. But then in the middle of that, there will be an advertisement for something that is totally not appropriate for their age or anybody by that matter. And that's not okay. That's not okay.
Mm.
So what we've done is, created a kids content site that is totally monitored, but not only that, it's for 17 and under. Now, no advertisements go in the middle, no advertisements at all. In order for the kids to get on the site, your parent has to get you on, meaning photo identification for the parent, um, with the child, right? So we have to have this is a selfie. Here's my ID. Here's my kid. Total proof of everything. Same thing with the users. Anybody that's commenting on anything, goes directly to the parent's email, so the parents can see as well. So it just needs to be open, and we need to realize that the parents have to be involved in this. We can't leave our kids to think that things are okay, because listen, that's why they're kids. They're even saying that at 26 years old these days, your brain's still not fully developed. Well, I totally believe it. And a lot of that does have to do with social media because of the fact of instant gratification. Back in the
Mm.
day, right? We had to go look up something in a book. We had to go do research. We had to go to the library. We had to do this. So our brain in those areas were functioning. We didn't get
Yeah.
instant gratification. Now you do. You can find out anything. You can even have access to anything that you want online, whether it's good or bad. So they have now proven this, which we all knew, but that those parts of these kids' brains aren't developed yet. So they're still going for that instant gratification. They don't know enough to say, "Oh, this isn't good for me,"
Mm.
even though they should because we've taught them. But that's not what's being played by the outside media and everything. So, that's that. That's how I got into that, and we're really excited about it. But it's also a monetizing site. So you know how on YouTube you really have a hard time monetizing. You can't. It's hard to monetize because you have to have a certain amount of followers. You got to have this. You got to have that. Um, you can monetize right away. You can charge whatever you want. You can get tips. You can do whatever you want. Now the site itself will take 15%. Excuse me. Yes, 15%. That's Tuzu. And that's because there's things to pay for, right? We got to keep the site up and running. We also have a payment system.
That's a lot less than what YouTube take. YouTube take, I think, 35%, something like that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I knew it was high,
Yeah,
but I wasn't exactly
they
sure.
take quite a bit, a big chunk.
Yeah. But this is, we want the kids to also be able to monetize, make money, and do that. Now, can they do stuff can they put their videos on there for free? Absolutely, 100%. So that's where the passion from that came in. Now, as far as the other tech startup, which is actually already on and going, that one's already been released. It's called ZZ, like the last letter in the alphabet. And there's ZZ Atom, and then inside of that, it's called ZZ Fans. So it is the only platform that has a social site in with a very highly ranking SEO monetized blogging site in with a content creator and influencer site. So, meaning, think of YouTube that you can easily monetize. That's the ZZ Fans part. Because listen, we're also trying to recreate that word fans. Fans does not mean that you're taking your clothes off. And I know that's the real condensation. It's kind of what it's kind of going for today. Fans are your clients. They're your customers. They're your followers. I mean, they are your fans. That's what fans used to be, right? I mean, a singer has a fan. A hockey player has a fan. Soccer player has a fan. That's what they are. So we went with that name for that reason, because they are fans. They're all fans. So, but that site, you can have a subscription site if you'd like. It's all for any kind of content, no adult content. We're not no adult content on that site. That's for other sites, not that one. And it is an 18 and up site. And again, because we really want to make it so that we've got the rights. I mean, because let's just, for instance, right? Are there bad things on there? Well, no. I mean, there's a lady on there there's two of them actually, who love to do crime scene investigations. That's pretty cool. A lot of people find that really awesome. But I don't want my 8-year-old granddaughter watching it. I just don't. She doesn't need to see that. It's not appropriate for her age. So that's how we have separated those things out, and it kind of goes into the same passion for the kids and keeping kids safe online. Am I going to be able to change the other sites? No, but I do feel like we don't really have a competition here, because literally nobody's doing what we're doing. And my partner in this she is actually the founder of the largest female entrepreneur group in the world, literally, and she's based in the UK. But she has 6 kids herself in their range and ages, so we're pretty
So how
darn
does she have
passionate
time
about
to
this.
be an entrepreneur then?
Absolutely. And honestly, when it comes to business, so that's another thing. So these two sites, so ZZ, that site is great too for business owners, right? No matter what kind, whether you're a singer, whether you're a podcaster, whether you are a football player, whether you sell products, like whatever it is you do, if you can educate your fans on it, you could sell your products. You can do whatever you want. You can charge. You can have a subscription site. You can have 2 sites. You can have a subscription site and a free site that you charge for. And the tips are really huge. So even when people put out free content, which is things you can't do on YouTube, unless you're at a certain point, people can give you tips. That's where people are making most of their money. They're making most of their money on tips, because people will throw $5, $10, $20 in there because they've really enjoyed your content. They enjoyed the show. They've enjoyed what you've educated them on or entertained them on. So that is kind of built around more of a business platform, but you can also use it for personal. Our blogs are amazing. So that's kind of the long short is, because there's always more to the story of how I got into the tech startup. So of course, yeah, did we have to get developers involved? Yes, because neither one of us are developers. Neither one of us are code writers. Did we find out about a lot of it? I have learned so much in the past 2 years that I didn't even know existed. When it comes to tech, when it comes to code, when it comes to developing things from scratch. And we were really proud of ourselves because of getting even an app. An app, when you're really doing it for any kind of a social site, is not easy. It's a little easier to get apps for like some one-off things, but it's not easy to actually be approved for a social site app. So they were pretty darn excited about that, and the hoops we had to go through for that alone. So that's kind of where we are. I mean, I did start a nonprofit as well. I mean, there's really so much, and that kind of stemmed from what I said at the beginning. Remember how we lived across the street from my
Yeah.
grandparents, because my grandfather was very abusive. So I started a nonprofit assisting survivors of domestic abuse and their children. And that has been going on since 2017. We are now global. So we're in so many different countries, and we have so many different things going on helping survivors and their children. So Yeah, it's a pretty, after my kids, all my kids are either in college or married. Um, and I'm pretty busy in a different way than when I was a stay-at-home mom of 4 kids or when I was working 3 jobs. Definitely, but in such a different way. But I can't say that I'm not busy, which I thought I would have a lot of time. And I do, right? Because I have control over my time, like the time I could
Mm,
be here and be able to be blessed to chat with you. I
yeah,
wouldn't be able to, that'd be hard. That used to would have able to be hard. But so yeah, that's great. That's what I'm doing.
brilliant. So nowadays you're in charge of your own diary,
Basic, absolutely, 100%. Yep.
and you can do what you want to and what you need to when you need to, which is brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Just
you
like
know how
being
that is.
retired.
It's a freeing feeling, isn't it?
Yep, it's just like being retired.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not quite sure how I actually had time to go to work when I think about it.
I know, because all the stuff that you're doing, you've got to have a pretty packed day.
I do. So I'm taking a little bit of a break over Christmas period, but yeah, we'll be back at it next year.
Yeah, which is crazy. It's going so fast.
I know. Terrific.
Oh.
Well, what an amazing story.
Well, I really appreciate you allowing me to share it. It did bring up some things that I haven't really thought about because as we're talking, I'm thinking about the chronological order of going through school and when these things happened and what led me here where I am today. And honestly, even the book. So I actually wrote a book too called The 30-Day Self-Perception Makeover. And that all stemmed looking back from my middle school years and how what I thought and felt about myself affected every single thing in my life.
Hmm.
And that's what, something that I work on as well is helping people with that because I know that literally changed my life. And it's something I still have to work on every day. Like we were talking about before the show about mental health. I mean,
Yeah.
that is part of my mental health is working on what I think about myself. And I can tell, I mean, I do my own book every 6 months because it takes about 5 to 6 months for the outside world to start affecting what we think about ourselves.
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Kathleen, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
And
Found this
thank you very
fascinating.
much.
Yes. Wow. But just wow. I mean, that was brilliant. So until the next one, TTFN. Ta ta for now.